It's another rendition of the NFC West Huddle, where reporters who cover teams in the NFC West sit down to talk about what's going on with the Seahawks, 49ers, Cardinals, and Rams. I'm Alyssa Charleston-Smith in Seattle, joined by Frank Malacote in San Francisco, Megan Plain in Phoenix, and Curtis Crabtree, who covers the Seahawks, but our Los Angeles reporters, they're busy covering the Dodgers today. So he's stepping in and will pretend he's representing LA. He's really just here to help me make sense of the Seahawks. Hey, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Alyssa.
All right.
Hello, hello.
I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Frank, we do have to start with you, even though I don't know if I want to. A 36-24 win for the San Francisco 49ers over the Seahawks last night. So I guess we do have to start with you. Was that win on Thursday Night Football the best win of the season so far for the 49ers?
Well, I think you got to start with a winner. Ha-ha. And that was a big, big win. Certainly their biggest win of the season. After dropping 2 games to divisional foes with double-digit leads in the second half. And you in Arizona and L.A. know what I'm talking about there. But, if you talk to the players, they said this was not a must-win game. But truly it was. They would have dropped to 0-3 in the NFC West and 0-4 in the NFC. And if you want to make the playoffs, that's no way to do it. And if you had Mustafa Green and Garindo on your big play bingo cards, well, you ought to go to Vegas and start betting, because who knew 3 rookies would step in? 2 with monster picks, 1 that stopped a touchdown drive, quieted it down, the crowd there at Lumen Field in Seattle, the other which kind of sealed the deal. And then you got this guy Garindo, first name Isaac, out of Louisville. You know, he's had a couple of carries this season, but he comes in after J.P. Mason goes down, and all he does is get 99 yards, including a 70-plus yard sealer run. And oh, by the way, slides down at the 2-yard line after being barely touched. Big football IQ, because the clock's still grinding away. Could have gone in for a touchdown, his first touchdown. He did not. And by the way, Shanahan loved that about him. And then Juszczyk took it in for the game winner. So once again, yeah, they needed this. They had to have it. And they're back home here in the Bay Area now, sitting atop with Seattle at 3-3 in the NFC West.
Yeah, the Seahawks got within 5 after being down 20. I thought it was going according to plan, going into the fourth quarter with a double-digit deficit, because the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan had been so good at giving those up against NFC West opponents. But, man, Isaac Garindo, that was horrendo for the Seahawks. A 76-yard rush, it just blew out all hope and excitement for Seattle.
Well, I was actually doing the post game. We were sitting on the set, and by then I'd kind of wrote up the show, and I'm thinking, oh my God, they're going to lose this one too. And then Garindo is sailing down the sideline. You should see the Niners sideline going nuts, and then had the wherewithal to slide there on the 2. It was tight. You guys got, the 2 touchdowns late, made it a 5-point game, and we were all saying, here we go again. But the Niners poured it on, and the rookie, I can't say enough about this rookie class. And with all the injuries they have, they lost Mason. They nearly lost their kicker as well. We'll talk about that later. But they're standing tall today at 3-3. And in football, the most important statistic or number is your record. And they're hanging in.
Yeah, for the Seahawks, it's turnovers, and they just continue to turn the ball over. I want to change the subject a little bit, because, Megan, I think the Cardinals are partially responsible for this loss for the Seahawks. They clearly made the 49ers mad heading into Thursday Night Football, beating San Francisco last Sunday with that fourth quarter comeback. What impressed you most about that win for the Cardinals?
Man, that was an incredible one. And sorry to your Seahawks. I think it did give the 49ers a little bit of extra motivation there, right? But yeah, what impressed me the most in that one is the defense, for a second time now this season, putting up a shutout there in the second half. And then one of the questions with the Cardinals was, is the offense going to be able to have some success from start to finish? We've seen Kyler Murray and company to start off games. You know, they'll score on the first drive of their game, score early on, and then it's pretty flat from there on out, right? So I think what I was impressed with was the defense's ability to stay strong in the second half like we've seen so far, but then for the offense to just continue to have some success, have some late success in that one. That's something that a lot of people have been wanting to see from this team, and they finally got to see it.
Oh, man, the Seahawks would love to see that out of Geno Smith and their offense, because it goes radio silent for about 2 quarters every game. Curtis, the Rams, you're standing in for LA today. They're 1-4 after Packers QB Jordan Love came home to his home state of California and led Green Bay to a 5-point win. Do you think there's a reason to panic in Los Angeles at 1-4?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a rough situation for the Rams right now, given they put all the resources that they did in making the Super Bowl run and really investing in that core that they had. This is now the back end of that, where after Aaron Donald retires, you start to see some of that strength of their roster start to slip away. And with the injuries to Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, their offensive firepower is just not there like it's been in previous seasons. And Matthew Stafford's doing his best to try to keep that offense going. And Sean McVay is still a very, very good coach and able to get a decent amount out of his guys there. But defensively, they are allowing the most yards per play of any unit in the NFL this season. And that's really tough to live on a week-in, week-out basis. And so 1-4 heading into their bye week, not expecting either of those receivers back for a while longer yet. It's a very difficult situation for the Rams to be in, and particularly given the fact that the three teams that are in front of them all seem capable of winning on any given week, even though the Seahawks have had their struggles here over the last three. They're teams that it's going to be tough to climb past that many teams, given the hole that they've kind of dug themselves here early in the season.
All right, well, everybody still has 11 games to play, so I want to ask each of you how real each team's strength is. Frank, it's annoying how good Kyle Shanahan's run game can be, even without Christian McCaffrey. You talked about it earlier. Second and third stringers just ripped off 228 yards rushing on the Seahawks. So I ask you, how real is San Francisco's run game this year, even without Christian McCaffrey?
Well, it's real, all right, but it's really sad, to be honest with you. When you look at their depth chart, you have Garindo, and then I had to look up. I think he had a couple of carries, Patrick Taylor Jr. After that, they got to start doing some shopping because the cupboard is bare, and they don't really know Mason's situation right now. Something in his shoulder. He went down hard in that second quarter, did not return to the game. I don't think it's super serious, but it's one of those things where I'm glad they got a 10-day break before the next game, but the Chiefs are coming in a week from Sunday. That's going to be scary. But think about it. McCaffrey's out indefinitely until that tendonitis goes away and hit both legs, so that's bad. And his Achilles. Then you've got Elijah Mitchell. He's been out all year. You lose Mason. So you're already down to your third stringer, who, by the way, was leading the NFL in rushing. The guy was averaging over 100 yards a game and was on his way again with 70 plus, but on that ninth carry got hurt. But now you got a guy named Garindo, Isaac Garindo, who I've already spoken about, and Debo. That's kind of it. And my guess is they're probably going to sign somebody here in the next couple of days to carry the ball because, it's all about the run. When you control the run, they grinded out the clock. I think they had 33, 34 minutes of possession time in that game. And if you keep the ball out of Geno Smith's hands or Kyler Murray and company, you're going to win some football games. And I think that's what happened.
Yeah, I'm in a tough spot because I have Christian McCaffrey on my fantasy team. I don't want to see him return because of what he will do to the NFC West. But I'm like, look, I need to make up some ground in my fantasy league. So interesting update there, and we'll see what happens with Jordan Mason. Megan, how real is this Cardinals defense? You talked about it. They've now posted 2 shutties in the second half of games, and that was huge against San Francisco. So how real is that Cardinals defense this year?
It's been really fun to watch this defense because going into the season, a lot of people were talking about, really quite frankly, how bad they expected them to be, right? But they've certainly lived up to and surpassed a lot of the expectations that people had. Now, they are still one of the worst pass rushing defenses in the country right now, so that's certainly an area of problem for them. But when you look at the expectations that they've already surpassed, they've got a lot of quality guys on the team, like Budda Baker, of course, Mack Wilson Sr. He's kind of been coming into his own. He had a really great game with 6 tackles there, 2 takeaways versus the 49ers. So I think the defense is something that is starting to get a little bit more attention from people, right? Going into the season, we knew this Cardinals offense, they have Kyler Murray, a guy who can extend plays. He's tough to stop. Then you look at Marvin Harrison Jr., another pretty decent group of receivers around him. So that was never going to be the problem. It was the defense. But I think right now where we're at, you can feel pretty confident about what this defense can do. It's going to be tough this week, right? They're going to Green Bay. So that's certainly not a stadium that's very easy to play in. And we'll see if they can rise to the challenge there.
Ooh, can't wait to see that test. All right, Curtis, it doesn't seem like there's an obvious strength of the LA Rams right now. I miss Kyle Kraska because I really wanted to talk some trash to him for what happened a few weeks ago. But in your opinion, how real is the Rams' youth? How much hope is there in those young guys?
Well, they've got to hope there is some hope in that youth because of the aging players that are going to, as we talked about with Aaron Donald retiring and some of the other pieces that were a part of that Super Bowl roster aging out and moving on to other places and such. They better hope that they can get some long-term production out of that rookie class and what they're bringing along, because otherwise it's going to be a long road for them to kind of rebuild here moving forward. As good as Matthew Stafford is and the level of play that he's been able to keep them at here, if you're not getting as much production out of these guys, given the fact that the roster has overturned like it has. Aaron Donald, I don't think, is coming back through that door, so they're going to have to do it with the pieces that they have. Jared Verse and such is going to have to step up on that defensive line to try to help bring things back together because, as we mentioned earlier, the yards per play has been really hurting them defensively so far here early in the season. It's probably the biggest reason they are 1-4 is that despite the fact that they do have the ability on offense to score, even without some of their weapons in the lineup, they just can't keep other teams close enough most of the time to keep in these games as much as they would like.
All right, well, actually, we were told by Gerard, who covers the LA Rams, that he thought Aaron Donald was going to come out of retirement around Week 9. I don't think it's going to happen, especially after watching what's happening right now on their offense. But Week 9, we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I think he's looking at a 1-4 record right now and saying, "Nah, I'm good. I'm staying away. I think I'm going to punt on this one."
Yeah, punt hard and far. As for the Seahawks, I have to address how real Geno Smith's passing numbers are. He's still leading the NFL in passing yards. Brock Purdy right behind him. This team has lost 3 games, though, in a row where he's thrown 40 or more pass attempts in each loss. He's averaging a 65.2 completion percentage in those 3 losses. That's nearly 10% lower than their first 3 wins when he was at 74.5. So while I think he still has the most passing yards in the league, obviously, the Seahawks passing game has not been good enough to win games. He has 6 interceptions to 6 passing touchdowns this year. It's not good enough to win games, like I said. And I'm curious, he was angry on the sidelines, really loudly angry and yelling at the sideline and kind of mashing his head in the tablet in the Microsoft Surface. So I don't know what they're going to look like 10 days from now when they have to face the Atlanta Falcons, but Geno Smith wants to play better, has to play better because there were some missed opportunities. He was airmailing guys and just off last night in multiple situations. All right, let's now play fair or foul. I hope this ruffles some feathers, but I don't think it will because I don't see much of an argument to this right now. Brock Purdy is the best quarterback in the NFC West. I'm going to ask each of you, fair or foul? Curtis, let's start with you.
I'm going to say foul, maybe for the sake of argument, and say that I still have Matthew Stafford pretty high up on a totem pole. I've always liked his game, and you saw that it's really kind of been able to fly with the Rams, unlike it was able to in Detroit when he was there earlier in his career. He's been able to take his game to the other level. Brock Purdy did really impress me in the game last night, and seeing how in person how capable he is of moving and his agility in the pocket. He avoided some pressure that I probably didn't give him enough credit for in the past, but I think Matthew Stafford's still kind of the kingpin of the division at the quarterback position until Brock Purdy or Geno Smith is able to come get it from him. And I don't think they're there quite yet.
You're being an LA homer for being in Seattle, Curtis.
I just like Matthew Stafford. I do. I think he's been a very, very good quarterback for a long time.
No, that is undeniable. That is very true. Frank, what say you? Fair or foul? Brock Purdy is the best quarterback in the NFC West.
I think Curtis grew up in Detroit and then moved to LA. I think he's the best quarterback right now in the NFL, and I got stats to back it up. He's got a 100 quarterback rating right now, which is primo, averaging 271 yards a game, 9 touchdowns in 6 games, 4 picks, 3 touchdowns against Seattle. And Geno had a couple of picks, leading the league, in yardage, but did not have a very good birthday in Seattle on Thursday night. Prior to that game, if you compare Brock Purdy's stats to Mahomes' stats over the last 20 games, they're both 14-6. And oh, by the way, Brock Purdy leads in passing yards, touchdowns, less interceptions, better passer rating, and more yards per attempt. And he's at a bargain basement price of $985,000, less than $1 million. And right now, Mahomes, who's worth every bit of his $37 million and his 2 Super Bowl rings. But I think you can make an argument that Brock Purdy's probably the best quarterback in the league right now.
Okay, I was actually going to be curious if you were going to go there. NFL-wise, those statistics are incredibly impressive, much cheaper than Patrick Mahomes. Megan, I'm curious what you think here.
I really liked Frank's logic there, I'm not going to lie. I was going to go against Brock Purdy in this one. He's actually from here in the Phoenix area, so maybe I could be a little bit of a homer in that regard and go with Brock Purdy. But yeah, I think his stats there really won me over. I was going to maybe play the homer card and go with Kyler Murray just to talk about what he's able to do with his legs and how scary that can be for other teams. But I mean, Frank's right. Brock Purdy is just incredible. And we've heard the argument time and time again, right, about how it's all about the weapons put around him. He's really not that good. He's been in the league long enough. He's risen to the occasion long enough now that I think he needs a lot more respect. Yeah, he is really the best quarterback right now in this division.
I was going to say, honestly, Kyler Murray this season is the closest challenger just because Matthew Stafford has almost nobody to throw to. So I think that's fair. But Purdy is absolutely setting himself apart. He has 9 touchdowns, like you said, Frank, 2 more than Kyler this season and only 4 interceptions. We know Geno Smith now has 6. And even in San Francisco's losses where he's been without Deebo Samuel and hasn't had his red zone running back, Christian McCaffrey, all season, he's still putting up good numbers. And I thought he made some really good decisions, especially last night. The fastest quarterback in 49ers history to reach 50 passing touchdowns, the highest completion percentage by a Niners quarterback in his first 30 games. And he's throwing deeper passes, not just a screen machine or dink and dunk like we've also seen in what Megan mentioned to all these skilled guys. His third quarter touchdown pass to George Kittle last night kind of sealed the deal for me this year, just the way he's improved. And I think he's just more versatile than we have given him credit for in the past. He's also got a pretty good O-line, and we didn't know about that O-line heading into the season. Let's now do a preview of what's to come next for each team. Megan, the Cardinals are the only team playing this Sunday. What are players and coaches saying in the press conferences leading up to this weekend's matchup with the Green Bay Packers?
I know how wild, right, that they're the only team playing this Sunday. They have a lot of confidence right now, obviously coming off a game in which they beat a pretty good team, the 49ers. Sure, the 49ers weren't playing to the caliber that we're used to seeing them play on, but Cardinals, they have a lot of confidence right now heading into this one. I think the offense, they continue to really click. That's something that they've said, time and time again as the season has progressed. That Marvin Harrison Jr. is feeling more comfortable. Of course, Kyler Murray building upon those connections he has with different guys. We've seen how mobile he could be. So they're certainly really confident going in there right now. And then the defense, I mean, the confidence that those guys have had all season long has been incredible. Their ability to really shut down teams in the second half. They just did it on the road in San Francisco. They're confident they could do it again here on the road in Lambeau, which is certainly going to be tough when you're looking at this Packers team. But I think the Cardinals are in a pretty good position. Both of these teams, they're pretty injured up front on the line right now, offensive line. So we'll see how that affects these defenses' ability to get to the quarterback. But yeah, I think it'll be a good one, and I actually think that the Cardinals have a good chance of walking away with a win in this one. We will see.
Ooh, that would be a statement for sure. Curtis, bye week before facing the Las Vegas Raiders for the Rams on October 20th. Any updates that you know about on Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua?
Not particularly on my front. I mean, that comes from the fact that I cover the Seahawks up here most of the time, so I don't have the intricacies on that one. I know that Nacua was supposed to be out until around week 7 or so it's getting closer with both him and Cooper Kupp to coming back, and they better hope that they can get that game against the Raiders next week if they do want to fight their way back into this division, because I believe they have a 5-0 Minnesota team coming in after that one, so before they face the Seahawks for the first time on the season. So that's a game they're going to need to get here with the pivotal stretch of games coming up for them if they want to claw back out of the basement of this division.
Yeah, I actually just read Sean McVay said Cooper Kupp could be back next week from his injury. Frank, Super Bowl rematch with Kansas City next Sunday. With what you saw last night, how much more confident are you this will be a good game against Taylor Swift's boyfriend?
There you go. And we're all wondering if she's going to show up and wear red, by the way. Good question. I think it's going to get hyped by the network in a big way because it's a rematch of a couple of Super Bowls. And, of course, the last one, 58. Trent Williams said on Thursday night in Seattle, he said, hey, it's another game. We moved on. I wonder. And Nick Bosa said, you know what? I've been here 6 years. I have not beaten that team yet, and I really want to get the monkey off my back. So I think they'll be motivated. And I think for the first time, Kansas City may be a little vulnerable. Granted, they got a bye this week. They're 5-0. But if you take the records of the 5 wins that they've had, it adds up to 11-13, a 46% rate of win. And I know it's the NFL. You win, you win. Mahomes and Kelsey, another year older, still very scary. It's going to be a great game, and I think it'll be a bigger game in terms of the fans and all the hype. But I think the players are going to come out and say, hey, we need a win, baby. And we're looking forward to it. A 1:30 kick a week from Sunday.
Yeah, cannot wait, honestly, to watch that one. The Seahawks play the Falcons in Atlanta on October 20th. They've got 10 days to figure out a lot of different things. Mike McDonald said the turnovers were single-handedly the biggest thing that hurt this football team yesterday against the Niners. They've had multiple turnovers in 5 of 6 games. They've had 10 turnovers by themselves on the season. You have to clean that up against a Falcons team that's kind of feeling themselves. They've won 2 straight. Kirk Cousins had one good game, I know for sure, because, again, on my fantasy team, but he was on the bench and he scored like 40 points. So I think he's found a little bit of a groove this season in Atlanta. And again, they've won 2 straight. The Seahawks looking to get off the schneid. They've lost 3 straight. Have to get it done next Sunday, October 20th in Atlanta. That'll do it for this week's NFC West Huddle. Thanks to Megan, Frank, and Curtis for having my back, especially you, Curtis, this week. This division race is getting more and more interesting. I can't wait to break it all down with you guys next Friday.